ワンピースは実在する!
There are few quotes in anything that will hit as hard as that one right there. A quote that for many people, myself included for the longest time, was the subject of an unexplainable meme.
The One Piece! The One Piece is real! Can we get much higher?
But now, after completing what I view as one of the best arcs in all of anime, I now look at it way differently. I am, of course, talking about the Marineford Arc from One Piece. Now, of course, if you've been paying attention to the channel, I have talked about how I'm going to be doing these sort of checkpoint videos whenever I complete a certain chunk of One Piece episodes. And well, I got to Marineford, and so I'm just gonna talk about Marineford now because that was so good. An arc that covers, I think, probably one of the largest sections of the show, at least so far, at least up to what I've watched, because technically the arc starts all the way back to the Sabaody Archipelago arc, and then goes through Amazon Lily, through Impel Down, and then to Marineford. So about 100 episodes of this show is pretty much just this arc, because going back to the Sabaody Archipelago, like, it all starts when Luffy and his gang are fighting against Kuma, one of the warlords, and they all get teleported by him to random parts of the world, and then they're separated for a while. And then Luffy ends up at Amazon Lily, where he meets Boa Hancock, one of my new favorite characters, and then goes through all the antics there, and then he finds out about how Ace has been captured by the Marines and is going to be executed, and then is like, I gotta go save him, and then with the help of Boa and all of them, he goes to Impel Down, and all the other crew going through the many different levels of Impel Down, meeting Jinbei, and then heading off to Marineford, where Ace is gonna be executed. And then, of course, Whitebeard gets involved, and ultimately leading to the War of the Best. Now, this arc, Marineford specifically, can be broken down into two things. The biggest one being is that probably 80% of this arc is Luffy running towards the execution platform, and the other 20% is some of the best action that has ever been seen in One Piece up to this point, as well as characters, dealing with everything with Whitebeard and his crew, all the different stories that have come together, of course, Crocodile coming back into the story, and just all the admirals on the Marine side, and then it's utter chaos when you get into it. And it's one of those arcs where it's not until you get to the end of it where you're just like, okay, it's finally over. Now, of course, before we get any further, because I want to talk about specifics, spoiler warning, obviously, if you have not watched or read Marineford, or just One Piece in general up to this point, because now I'm going to talk about how I view Marineford. So, you've been warned. Now, the whole thing about this arc, of course, it spurns with Whitebeard and Luffy coming to save Ace from being executed, because obviously Ace is Luffy's brother, though not related by blood, as we found out in this arc. But also Whitebeard views Ace as a son, as he views all of his crew. But one of the biggest twists in this is it's revealed that Ace is the son of Goldie Roger, the former king of pirates. And that's really one of the biggest praises I have for this arc, is just the story impact that it has. How in Mushoku Tensei terms, it's like a turning point. I mean, for so many different reasons. Just Ace's backstory that's revealed, the impact on Luffy, and just going back to Luffy, again, the majority of this arc is Luffy running towards the execution platform. A lot of the episodes are just Luffy going a couple more steps forward, and then you really feel it when he gets knocked back by somebody, and it's like, oh my god, that's like 2 or 3 episodes gone. And then the other side of it is how it's impacted Garp, Luffy and Ace's grandpa. Because up to this point, Garp was just sort of like a comedic relief character, but then this was finally the arc where it was like, okay, he actually genuinely has to choose between his grandsons, who he loves, and his job. And one of my favorite scenes is when he finally comes face to face with Luffy, and he's like telling him to stand down, like, don't fight him right now. And I'm sure in that moment, he probably intentionally opened himself up to get hit by Luffy, especially considering what happens later. But after this arc, Garp has definitely become one of my favorite characters, just because of like the whole backstory, just how he captured Roger, and then like Roger told him just like, please look after my son. Just that whole thing of just like these rivals, these old rivals, but yet he trusted him so much. It's like Roger said something along the lines of just like, we've been rivals and enemies for so long, so I feel like you're the only one I can trust. Which is ironic considering that it seems like he was close with Whitebeard as well. He trusted Garp to look after his son, but then ultimately he ended up with Whitebeard anyways. It really makes me look forward to the future of Garp and how maybe he'll eventually turn against the Marine. Ultimately, though, I do have one gripe with this arc, and I mean, it's not really a gripe, it's just kind of a story decision where I'm sure it was explained in some way, but the whole reason this arc is happening is because Ace is going to be executed, and the entire time, like while Whitebeard and Luffy are running towards the platform, the Fleet Admiral Sengoku and all these guys, they just have Ace right there, and they see all this is happening. They know like all these pirates and everybody are here for Ace. Would it not make sense to just kill him? The whole time Sengoku was just looking at all this, just like, damn, we should probably hurry along with this execution before someone tries to stop us. I think there was something at some point where it's like Sengoku was really anal about a lot of details, like he wants to be on time and all this stuff, but you could easily just stop their advance and just like break their morale if you just killed Ace. My other favorite part about this arc was seeing just all the big heavy hitters of this world being in one place so much sooner than I would have expected. All the pirate warlords are there, all the admirals are there, all fighting against Whitebeard and Luffy. Two big armies, but still, it's like their best against these two. It was crazy. Like, it was cool seeing Luffy sort of fight against like all the warlords. Now I guess we'll talk about Boa Hancock, who I briefly mentioned. She has become probably one of my favorite characters in all this, just because her development from being this woman who justifiably hates men and wanted to kill Luffy, but through their interactions and her trusting him, she developed love for Luffy. A completely one-sided love, because obviously Luffy does not care about all that. He just wants to be king of pirates. Classic Goku. Someday I'm gonna get shit for that. It was so funny seeing her just go against like the warlords and all of them, just like, love is a hurricane, don't you know? And just of course her doing her classic pose. She's a character who I really hope comes up a lot more in the future, but where I am right now in the midst of the Fishman Island arc, I don't imagine we'll be seeing her for a little while. But now we'll talk about the big part of this arc, which is the ending and how it subverted it initially. Luffy finally gets the execution platform. He rescues Ace, fights Sengoku briefly, and then releases Ace from his chains. He unleashes his flames and the brothers are reunited again. The mission is complete. All that's left is to get the fuck out of here. Whitebeard realized this, and he knows there's only one thing that he can do, and that is sacrifice himself to hold back everybody while everyone gets away. Which of course, I kind of anticipated that was gonna happen anyway, which before this arc, it's like Whitebeard, we met him, you know, we had that scene with Shanks and him where they briefly talked and kind of fought a little bit, but this arc just gave him so much character and just like how much he loves and cares for his crew as sons and how he ultimately decides to give his life for them. But then the big twist is Akainu, the lava admiral. He goes after them and he's just like, I won't let you get away. It's like, I'll kill Luffy. And at the last second before he hits Luffy, he kills Ace. Ace sacrifices himself to protect Luffy, and then Luffy snaps. I loved how that scene was portrayed as well. Just Luffy's breakdown in that moment. It's like he kind of like cries. Nah, this isn't real. This is a dream. It is kind of sad because like Ace, he's a cool character, but like up to this point, he was with us for a little bit in Alabasta, and then obviously we saw his fight against Blackbeard. But other than that, it's like we haven't spent too much time with him, but it was enough time, especially this arc, where it's like the whole point of this happening was to rescue him. To see him die, it's just like, fuck, like what was it all for? I mean, more than that, obviously it's Luffy, you know, blood related or not, Luffy's brother. And it's just also sad like seeing Whitebeard's reaction to it as well, and just like him going to town on Akainu. I mean, it's one of those ones where it's like, I knew Akainu wasn't gonna die because I'm sure that's gonna set up for something later when eventually maybe Luffy and Akainu come face to face with each other again. And ultimately this arc, though it was probably the biggest turning point in the whole show and series up to this point, it's also the one that sets up a lot going into the future. But then ultimately leads to Whitebeard just being like, fuck this Marineford place, I'm just gonna destroy it. It was cool that we never really saw Whitebeard's power up to this point, at least not much of it, and just seeing him like trying to just eviscerate this island and just take down everybody. And it's crazy, and like you think he's gonna do it and he's gonna take them all down with him, but then we forget that Blackbeard is still around and he still has history with Whitebeard. And then one last fight, Blackbeard versus Whitebeard, and you think Whitebeard's gonna win despite being injured as he is. But the crazy thing with this arc is just like it said, like over the course of this battle, fucking Whitebeard took like, he was stabbed and slashed 267 times, shot 152 times, and hit by cannonballs 46 times. Yeah, what a fucking legend. And all that, and he dies standing with his final words just being, the One Piece is real. I just love that he just stood as just a statue like all the way to the very end. And that brings me to one of the best quotes ever. Again, kind of tainted because I know it's a meme, but at the same time, having watched all of One Piece up to that point, hearing that quote, you know, the One Piece is real, it brought me back to the realization of what this whole story really is about. Again, the show One Piece, even though the whole point of this show is just Luffy, you know, he was king of pirates, gonna go find the One Piece. It's not about that. Though it's also a meme, it's just like the friends we made along the way, but also it's what One Piece really is about is just like preparing the next generation, leaving on a legacy. I mean, that was the whole thing when Whitebeard died, just like, with my death, this will reign in a new era of pirates. And just him saying just like the One Piece is real, it's just like he's never lost faith in that. He never gave up on Roger, his good friend. And just him saying that was just also him giving that hope to the younger pirates as well, just like the One Piece is real, you can find it, you can become even greater. Though Whitebeard, we didn't spend much time with him before this arc absolutely solidified him as just an absolute legend, and especially his death. It does suck that it's sort of tainted then with Blackbeard taking his tremor powers and just literally having like that yin and yang. So Blackbeard has gotten a massive power up now as well, so it's just sort of solidifying him as, I imagine, more of like the end game boss. When it comes to this arc as a whole, how I sort of looked at it at the time, like as it was ending and wrapping out, was really the pirates lost. Though they did pretty decent damage to Marineford. I mean, Whitebeard nearly destroyed Marineford, even though not long after this arc is them rebuilding it. None of the major admirals died. They lost a good amount of soldiers, but like none of the major admirals died. Sengoku retired after that, but still, Akoji takes over as admiral after that. But then like you look at the pirates, it's like the whole reason they came there was to rescue Ace, and Ace ultimately died, and then also Whitebeard died. So like their whole reason for doing that, it's like really was for nothing. Despite it all, it was great motivation, I would say. Like it ultimately was just setting up for the future. It was a learning experience, especially with Luffy, because then obviously he goes on to learn how to use his haki, you know, controls his, eventually moves on from it and gets even more powerful. Because though I will ultimately view Marineford as a marine victory, I mean, granted, also Blackbeard became more powerful because of it, so it's sort of like null, I would say. It's like a draw across the board. It's like the Marines lost a good amount, Blackbeard gained power, the pirates lost a lot. At the same time, Whitebeard fucking motivated the hell out of a new generation, for better or for worse, because I do like how going forward it shows just like, yeah, the One Piece is real. Like it motivated, you know, the good pirates to be like, yes, we can strive for a better future. But then it's like those bad pirates interpreters just like, yeah, we're gonna fucking invade everything, find the One Piece. It shows just how people will interpret messages, you know, they think it's for them. Ultimately, this arc was also just showcasing a lot of the other warlords, like obviously like Doflamingo, more of Hawkeye, talking about how Kuma is dead already, but he's a robot, and ultimately just setting up for more of the future of One Piece. And overall, for right now, for my binge of One Piece, this was absolutely the best. For me, it was the peak of One Piece, even though obviously I'm still not even halfway caught up. It was phenomenal to experience. Now going into the remainder of One Piece, I mean, it has a lot to live up to, but I know that there's still some of the best shit still remaining. For this sort of being like the, I mean, it's not even the middle, you know, kind of like the big turning point for the series, it was phenomenal. And absolutely, I see it as one of the best anime arcs of all time, just because of its significance, both in themes and in action and storytelling. If for nothing else, I would say it's perfect. The only kind of downside is just the anime's horrible pacing sometimes, but the parts that hit, they hit hard, and it was great. Like, what else can I say? Now, going forward, when it comes to these One Piece videos, I know that I said I was gonna do sort of like maybe every 200 episodes covering stuff. I think I'm gonna leave it like this, where if there's really an arc that I want to talk about, I will. Because though I did really enjoy Water 7, I don't feel like I have a whole lot to talk about with that, because really when it comes to like episodes 200 to 500, most of what I would want to talk about is Water 7 and Marineford. So I decided I'll just talk about Marineford, because plus I think that would make a better title in the thumbnail. You know, Marineford is the best anime arc ever. And yeah, safe to say I am officially on the One Piece dick ride gang. I am on board that ship, and I am going to be buying One Piece merch right now. But either way, this was my sort of review talking about Marineford and just how amazing of an arc it was. Again, nothing new for anybody who's a One Piece fan, obviously, but new for me, and I just had to share my experience with it. Join me for many other videos of the sort, be they future anime reviews, reactions, gameplay, or anything else that'll be coming out soon. So thank you all for joining me on this. I'm Lancer. Thanks for watching.